Everyone, I'm Jane Johnston, co-CEO of AphA. I've been in the NHS for over 30 years, working in acute community mental health commissioning organisations in data and analytics, heading up information, performance, BI, PHM, working a lot lately with the Centre on Workforce and also strategic commissioning. I work now as an independent, having done over 20 years in substantive roles.
And my name is Corielyn, and I am as mentioned before, the Director of Continued Professional Development for AphA. And in my day job, I'm a metadata lead data governance specialist for the NHS Business Services Authority, where I've worked for about 4 years now, and before that I taught high school physics, so kind of a shift into the NHS recently, but loving it so far. All right, so we also have Ruth Holland, Rachel, and Jeanette, I think, on the call that will talk about their specialist networks a little bit later, so if any of you would like to introduce yourselves, feel free, otherwise I'll get started.
I'll do it later, Corielyn.
Okay, that's fine. Sounds good.
Okay,
Right.
so if I kick us off then, what's the purpose of AphA? AphA, Association of Professional Healthcare Analysts, which actually now is much wider. It's health and care data and analytics professionals. So we covered the whole gamut as per the National Competency Framework as well. So we look at, supporting any data and analytics professional. We're all about raising the profile of the profession and representing that voice of health and care. We're more and more recognised as an industry expert, and we're often invited by the centre to provide subject matter expertise in some of their decision making. We had regular meetings with Ming Tang, now with AphA, and also our specialist networks, which Ruth will tell you about, has a very close relationship as well with the centre. So we're very known for supporting and promoting our profession. So we're all about helping our members to drive up the quality of what we do through supporting through various means and training, and we'll go into the benefits a bit later about being a member of AphA. So we started in 2021 in the Southwest. We kicked out of Southwest House in Taunton.
2012.
Sorry?
You said 2021. 2012.
Did I? 2012. Yeah. Yeah, my eyes are melting and everything's going a bit.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've been there from day one. We had 108 analysts turn up from the Southwest, and we decided that there was just nothing there to support our profession, our community, and we wanted to have a lot more available to us. So our first conference at Taunton, actually, our keynote speaker, believe it or not, was Jim Mackey, who is now Mr. Big in the NHS. And the funding originally came out of Southwest, the Strategic Health Authority. They helped kick off the funding. So we established a committee, we were a charity, and then became a CIC, Community Interest Company, in 2016, and had a formal board established. In 2020, we re-looked at the board structure and the constitution. I've been in post since January 2025 as co-CEO with Emma Wright, who's works for the Northern Care Alliance. And we developed our first strategy in a board day back then in 2025. And we're now looking at delivering that 5-year strategy and plan. So a bit of background, as I say, we're a professional membership organisation. We're all about supporting career development, career progression, professional development. We are that collective voice nationally. We are also have membership across all 4 nations, and in fact a smattering from the Philippines, Zimbabwe and Australia. But across all 4 nations, and Ruth's doing a lot of work developing the Northern Ireland branch. Corielyn's doing a lot of work developing the Scotland branch. So we do have good representation across all 4 nations, and we are recognised across all 4 nations. There are many benefits to membership, just the whole network thing, just having a network of like-minded peers and colleagues is phenomenally powerful. We do mentorship programs. You can sign up as a mentor or a mentee. We have a number of strategic partners, and we have a number of sponsors, all of who offer different training at various, so we're always pointing our members to training, as well as our own lunch and learn sessions, which Corielyn runs, a bit like these Midlands network sessions actually. A number of networking and events. We have an annual conference. We have various branches that have their own events. So we're there to help you boost your career professionally, become professionally registered, and just help you build yourself and your career. The cup of coffee there, and the special interest networks, Ruth and Jeanette are here to talk about. The cup of coffee is representative. The membership of AphA is £37 or £47 a year, depending on your pay band. And that is less than the cup of one small Costa a month. So if you can just give up 1 cup of coffee a month, then you have made an incredible investment in yourself. So the changing NHS landscape, we know that there's increased demand across all the services in the NHS and across health and care. So as we're working as integrated systems now, you know, there is that whole, the demands across everything. There's the very definite shift towards prevention and moving care, that left shift into the community, and also constantly looking at efficiencies and productivity and achieving value-based healthcare, the best value for our money while delivering the best outcomes for our population. Strategic commissioning is obviously very much a lens focusing on that, using PHM, population health management, to help deliver and support that across the systems. So there's a growing importance of data in decision making. It is very much at the center of transformation, and we are there to help support, because obviously our jobs are shifting from just report churn to having to be much more coming up with much more intelligence and insights to action as well. So data and analytics does therefore matter more than ever. We are reforming the clinical decisions being made. We're managing the population health, which is a basis for how our strategic commissioning, how our interventions are being designed and procured. We have to be constantly considering about reducing inequalities and looking at equity across the system and parity of service, and all the support that's needed in service redesign to deliver all that. So where we used to be a little back office function, sitting in a darkened room, in a basement, in a hospital somewhere next to the mortuary, as I was, you know, churning out Excel spreadsheets, there is so much more to it now, and we have to change with it, building also our own communication capabilities and multidisciplinary working, strategic views. So we're there to help support you build that. So we fit in as a professional body for health, data and analytics professionals. We're about supporting individuals, teams and organisations, and aligning with that NHS direction, which I'll go into in a minute. But our members are from health and care. So we do have members that are in social care, public health, and other stakeholders, fire service we had. So anybody really who has an interest in or works in health and care, data and analytics, that first bullet should really say health and care, data and analytics professionals. And it's not necessarily just public sector, NHS. We have members from commercial organisations, because there are commercial organisations who have large teams of analysts that are constantly doing data, analysis of health and care data, and it just helps them also stay up to date with how everybody is working, where the issues are, where best practices, etc. So that network again is hugely helpful for sharing. And the NHS direction, I think if we go to the next slide. So the NHS recently put this out there as they are, and this is NHS England. Having said that, NHS Scotland is actually very keenly, closely watching this, as are the other nations. And in fact, we've had emails from Australia and Canada who are very, very interested in the professionalisation of the DDAT workforce. So what NHSE would like is for senior DDAT leaders to become a member of a professional organisation and professionally registered by March next year. Now, there is a distinction between the professional organisation, being AphA, and registration, which comes under another umbrella, which Corielyn will go through. So there's two areas to it, a bit like, think of your nursing colleagues. They join the RCN for their training and professional development, but they have to be registered with the NMC to practice. And it's much the same thing. You're a member of a professional body, but then you also become registered. So you can be a member of AphA without being registered, but you can't be registered without being a member of a professional body such as AphA. And if you are a senior DDAT leader and you're only a band 7, I'm sorry, but that March 27 deadline does apply to you. That's just rough guidance. Where the expectations there say member, 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 what they should say is member and registration. They messed up the table a bit, and I did confirm that, and they said no, it should say member and registered by those that timeline of dates.
Cool. So this is
to Corielyn.
Yeah, where I will take over. So I'm going to briefly talk about the benefits of AphA as that professional body, and then I'll hand over to the networks that are here that wanted to talk a little bit about their specialist networks and what they're trying to achieve, and then I'll come back and finish up with a little bit more detail about the professional registration process. So one of the first benefits of AphA is the professional identity. So a lot of data and analytical roles have often happened in isolation. There's a lot of us that are multitasking against different areas and different types of roles. And historically, there's not been that formal recognition of analysts as a profession. So one of the big things that AphA is aiming to achieve is to help members get that recognition of being a part of a profession by having clear standards and expectations that people can link their work to, so that they can say, I am a professional, I do have expertise, and they have a way of being able to showcase that. So everything that we do through our professional registration process is aligned with National Workforce Strategy. It is aligned with the National Competency Framework, and through FedIP, it is aligned with all of those standards that all the other professional bodies use, BCS, CHIME, IRM. So there's a standard set of expectations for that profession. The second benefit is really about community and networking. So it's awesome to be able to come in and get professionally registered and have that sort of confidence in yourself and that expertise. But one of the things, especially for me, that I've really loved about AphA is just the community. Having people that you can talk to that are interested in the same things as you, that are going through the same things as you as far as working for in health and care, and can share your pain or your joys, is really, really meaningful. So there's two ways you can get both national networking and community and those local branches. So the regional branches across all 4 nations basically gives you that opportunity to go to more local community sessions. So you can go to one in Wales. They do a lot of hackathons and things like that, and they're open to everybody, but they tend to focus on things that people in that area really want to focus on. So it's a nice opportunity to build your local community, but then you also have the larger lunch and learn sessions and the annual conference and webinars and things that are done for everybody. There's also the specialist networks, and on the website there's links to all of those. We have 3 here today to talk to us, but you can go onto the website and get the full list if you're interested. And then there's also a massive amount of peer support across organizations, things like mentoring, where you can get kind of some one-on-one support through whatever skills you're trying to learn, or career progression is really nice as well. Benefit 3 is about skills and career development. So we have the sort of professional side of it, being professionally recognized. We have the community and networking side, and then we have the focus on really helping people develop their skills and their career. And like I mentioned before, we are strong advocates for the competency framework. We've been highly involved in that work and have made sure that all of our professional registration standards are aligned to that. So no matter what field you're in, if you have a place on the competency framework, you have a place through professional registration with AphA. Like for me, I work in data governance and found it really easy by kind of going through that national competency framework to figure out where I could meet the standards for my registration. Training and events, I talked about the lunch and learns. We do with the annual conference, we have various workshops and things you can be a part of, and guest speakers and panels, so that can be really nice as well. We do have a endorsement and accreditation offering as well, where we will accredit and endorse various training companies so that you have an idea of what they're like and whether or not the quality is up to our standards. We have the mentorship opportunities, which is an annual thing. So once a year, we have a new cohort of mentors and mentees. So if anyone's interested in that, the next cohort, I believe, would be matched in January for the next year. And then there's the Knowledge Hub. So the nice thing about the website is literally everything we've ever done is on there. So if you want to watch a lunch and learn from a year ago, it's there. If you want to see past examples of professional registration, it's there. If you want to see the magazine articles from the Chief Data Analytics Officer Network or from AphA, that's all on the website. So you can have a look and go through all the past things, as well as be kept up to date on the new things that are being added on a regular basis. And lastly, and probably most important, is that all of these things we're doing link back to better patient outcomes. So anything that we can do to make sure that we have better data means that we have better decisions, better insight, better targeting, and that ultimately allows us to reduce inequalities. So from there, I'm going to hand over to Ruth, if you're on, and she can talk a little bit about the Chief Data Analytical Officer Network.
Thanks, Corielyn. So the Chief Data Analytics, I'll introduce myself first, sorry. I'm Ruth Holland. I'm Deputy Chair of the Chief Data Analytics Officer Network. That's a voluntary role. I'm also Director of Regions of AphA. That's also a voluntary role, but the paid job is as CDAO for One London, which is building regionally critical data infrastructure across London. So it's the London SDE, and we provide all the data infrastructure for the ICBs in London. So it's a shared service. So the Chief Data Analytics Officer Network is hosted by AphA. We have a really strong strategic goals are completely crossover. It's about 3 years old now. Mark Farr's the chair, and I've my co-deputy chair is Ronnie Arafin. And really it's aimed at joining up and giving a space to the most senior data analytics leader in every NHS organisation. And I say the most senior data and analytics leader because not everybody has that CDAO title. but virtually every organisation has a senior data and analytics leader, but also their deputies. So if you're already a member of the network, but you haven't got your deputies signed up, please do, because we are very much about trying to generate and nurture that pipeline of talent as well. We published our manifesto a while ago now, and really it's to help our members become key influencers in their organisations and promoters of data-driven decision making. So just coming out of the shadow of digital and really putting data and analytics leadership on the map and valued by other healthcare leaders. In terms of what we do, we run a webinar series, which is about monthly, where we have guest speakers that can range from a deep dive into the NHS canonical data model, or through to someone talking about their own career and the learnings from their career, who's already kind of at that C-suite level. So it varies quite a lot, the topics we provide. We write blogs. We also try to influence key healthcare data and analytics decisions in the NHS and policies. So I think Jane mentioned, we meet monthly with, it used to be Ming, now it's AoB and team. But we also have written a couple of open letters about the federated data platform to Ming when she was in post. And last week, Matt Hennessy, who's the CDO of Greater Manchester ICB, gave evidence on behalf of the network to the Health Select Committee on the FDP. So we have, I would say, growing influence, and people are increasingly coming to the network now to ask a view of what the local NHS needs, rather than what I think we had before was a culture of perhaps the centre telling the local NHS what it needs. So we're slowly changing that approach and culture, which is I see as completely positive. And probably the last and final thing I wanted to highlight is the network is a fantastic place to share information. So there's a Teams channel, and almost not a day goes by where someone's on that Teams channel going, oh, has anyone done anything about, I don't know, geospatial analytics? Or today's was, has anyone already written a briefing for their exec about the changes in the oversight, the latest version of the oversight framework? Can I just borrow that, please? So we're all trying to help each other out. I'll pause there, happy to take any questions, but if you're sitting there as a data and analytics leader and you haven't yet joined us, please do. It's a really great network to be part of. And if you're an aspiring data and analytics leader, please also join. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruth. All right, so we have Rachel up next to talk about some of the plans for the Population Health Management Network. I think I saw you on there, Rachel, somewhere.
I am. Can you hear
Yay!
me?
Yep.
Fantastic. Sorry, my Teams is melting, so I am using both my phone and my laptop, so I can see the presentation on my phone and actually hear you on my laptop. So apologies, but hopefully I'm coming across clear. So yeah, thank you for your time this morning. My name's Rachel McIlroy. I am System Implementation Lead at NHS England, working on the Strategic Commissioning Development Programme that has just recently launched at Confed. I've been in the NHS around 20 years, give or take, with a few dips out into other things. And I am a chartered statistician of the Royal Statistical Society by background. My focus has always been in applied statistics, which is incredibly dull and boring to some people, but I think it's really important that the work that we do and using data and analytics does something. It's all very interesting to gather some data, but what does it tell me? What do I want to do with it? How does this help? Which kind of led me into working in population health management. So for those who aren't familiar, PHM, because I will say that rather than population health management every time, is a way of using data and analytics to better understand the needs of your population and then put things in place for your population that is going to support them. So those can be things that are going to result in greater health next week, or it could be in 20 years' time. So very closely linked to public health and prevention. So as I say, I've been working in PHM space for about 4 or 5 years now as part of NHS England. And I've been an AphA member for 4 or 5 years, maybe something like that now. Can't quite remember. But I have been delighted to be the co-chair of our PHM network for the last year. My co-chair probably needs no introduction. It's Professor Samura Gray, absolute legend in the world of public health and prevention, and a screening kind of pioneer, the work that he's done over the years. And he is still very much active in trying to support the way that systems operate, the way that we use data and information about prevention, supporting our population needs, and now as we're moving into strategic commissioning, supporting commissioning decisions around what is our population going to need as we go forward. So our network has around about 150 members. We surveyed the membership earlier on in this year, and I'm just going to kind of go through a few of the highlights that came out of that survey as to what our network is about and what our membership want. So I think, as everybody else has already said, the main thing that comes out of having these networks, whether they are topic specific or in terms of a professional connection, is that collaboration. It is that being able to connect with people like yourselves who are working in similar areas, who have got similar questions, similar expertise, and similar information to impart. So it's having that peer learning opportunity to, as Ruth was saying, say, have you already done this? Can we possibly borrow it and expand upon it? So one of the things that came through strongly for us, for the PHM network, is around shared coding, shared learning, shared problems, and shared solutions. So really thinking about a lot of these problems that we are coming up against are not unique, and somebody has probably already thought about it before, or tried a solution out before, or has cracked it. So that's the opportunity of the network, is to come together and say, hey, we're looking at, I'm trying to understand the population needs for our diabetics over the next 20 years. Has anybody done that? Chances are somebody will have done that work. The next thing that people really highlighted was actually very specifically around information governance and data sharing. So one of the things about population health management is we are very reliant on multiple data sources from multiple sectors. So in order to fully understand our population, not only do we need to know more about their health activity, but we need to know about, what do their green spaces look like? What's their housing like? What's the deprivation like in their area? What are their educational opportunities? Because all of that has an impact on how people manage their health as they age through their life course, and also their environment massively influences that. So from a population health perspective, we're really interested in understanding lots and lots of different data sets, and that can be incredibly challenging in getting the IG sorted, in sharing those, in linking that data at a usable level, whether it's at person level or an aggregate. How do we draw all of that information together to make best sense of it collectively? So there was a big push from our membership around something in supporting that, in particular around GP engagement and access to GP and primary care data. The next thing that people had asked for was around capability building hub. So how are we offering training? How do we access subject matter experts? How do we know what tools to use? Because there's a proliferation of them out there. What are the good ones? What are the bad ones? How do we know what we're using are the right things and the most up to date? So not only being able to develop linkages across our teams, but also thinking about how do we share the learning that we've taken from that. Has somebody built a really interesting bit of an analytics that they can share the code on? Could somebody do some training on some work that they've done previously that might help somebody else. The next thing is around reproducibility and best practice. So again, this is probably going to be the same through any of our specialist networks, but standardized methods, shared analytics, quality improvement, a bit of that peer support of not only guiding what we should do, but also checking our homework. You know, we don't always have big enough in analytical teams where we work to be able to have somebody to go, I've written this code, does it make sense? So we're using the network to be able to do those kinds of things as well. And one of the biggest things that came out of it as well was around cultural change. So a lot of the work that we do is very siloed. In the NHS, we're very risk averse. There is also a lack of understanding of what population health means, because depending on what sector you're working in, it can mean very different things. It can mean public health to some, it can mean not being analytically driven by others. So an opportunity to kind of come together and say, when we talk about population health, what do we actually mean, so that we're clear when we're communicating out to other people what the value is, where we add impact, and how any of what we do can help. So a bit of a plea, like Ruth, if you are interested in this area, in public health, population health, prevention, please do join us. I've popped the link to our website on our page on the AphA website in the chat. There is a form at the bottom of there to fill in if you would like to join us. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Rachel. And then last, but certainly not least, we have the Women in Health Data Network. So Jeanette, I've just kept your strategy and upcoming events slide since we only have a few minutes left, but I'll hand over to Jeanette.
Okay, hi everyone. I lead on the Women in Health Data Network, and in my real life as an analyst, I am the analytics lead for Kent Medway Integrated Care Board for planned care and diagnostics. If you could go to the next slide, please. I can't see who's presenting, sorry.
Oh yeah, it's me. I just have your strategy one and your events on here.
Yeah, but it's still on the population health one on my
is it?
screen. Yeah.
Okay, weird.
No,
I'll stop sharing and
I'm seeing events, and I was seeing strategy before.
yeah, okay,
Yeah,
I'll try and share it again, but it looks okay on my side.
Yeah,
I'll give it one more go.
Okay.
I've been
So-
freezing up a lot and losing track.
So I had a few slides prepared for this meeting. I had about 6 in total. So what I'll do is I'll PDF them up afterwards, and that can go out to this group for information, because it had information of how to join the network. And also we've got a live Menti at the moment, so we're getting feedback from our members and new members on things like communication preferences and things like that. So we've had a little bit of upheaval in the last year in regards to our network. We've lost quite a few steering group members. So at the end of last year, I did a big call, and I've managed to recruit 4 new steering group members. So we are now a group of 6 analysts within the NHS that are leading this network. We have had lots of meetings so far. We've got a mission and strategic pillars. So our mission is to empower people in health data to improve women's health equity and advance gender equity across recruitment, careers and leadership. We also have 3 strategic pillars, which are led by individuals within our steering group, so people can have ownership, and some people will flit across the others based on their specific expertise. And we are also really keen to make sure that our members are involved in each of those as they would like to be as well. So our first strategic pillar is to attract women into health data. Our second is supporting women in their careers. And our third is using data to improve women's health inequalities. So my specific goal at the moment is supporting women in their careers, and it's the most important at the moment. And again, like Jane and Corielyn highlighted earlier, there's a really big push for professional registration at the moment. And what I'm really keen on ensuring is that women are not left behind in this process. The fact is that a lot of people are having to do it in their spare time, and as people probably know, women are more likely to have caring responsibilities and are less likely to be able to do it at a quicker pace as men may be able to do. So what we're doing is we're looking at how we could best support that. We had a really good idea at our last session that we will do limited mentoring sessions, so people would have a buddy throughout the professional registration process. And I'm just trialing that out because I have not had time to do it myself, and one of our we've got a couple of people within the steering group that are already professional registered, and one of them is my buddy at the moment and going to get me through the July submission. So what we'll do is we'll do a bit of a write-up after that, some tips and hints, and also try and get some kind of limited mentoring off the ground in regards to that. So we're trialing things out, and that was based on feedback from somebody within the group. So we're really looking at making sure what we do as a network is fit for purpose and actually adds value to women in data's lives. So
yeah, so Jeanette, I will make sure your other ones get sent out with your QR code and stuff, but if you just want to mention really quick what's upcoming in case anyone's interested.
So we have monthly events sketched out for the year. Our next one is on the 9th of July, which is in a couple of weeks' time. As a member, these go directly into your calendar, so you don't have to sign up for anything or do any admin. If you're not a member, please join and they will go straight into your calendars. Obviously, you have no obligation to accept. It's easier if it goes straight in, and it'll have the information on exactly what the event is about, and it also mean that we can easily gauge numbers. If you're not a member, you can do the sign up process through LinkedIn, and I will shove a few links in the chat in a minute and hand back to Corielyn.
Thanks, Jeanette. So I'm just gonna, I think I have like 4 minutes left, right, Rachel? Is that right?
Okay, I'll give you 8.
Oh, okay. I'm just going to finish up then with professional registration, and like Jeanette mentioned with the buddying, strongly recommend a buddying approach if it's available to you, because it's really nice to have somebody to bounce ideas off. Sometimes it can be really difficult to understand what you've actually done and what you've achieved, and we tend to be a bit hard on ourselves sometimes, and not, but if you can sit there and explain it to someone else and they're like, why don't use that as your evidence, that was a great example. And so yeah, a buddy is always good. It helped me for sure. So professional registration is done through FedIP. So we mentioned this before, but you do have to be a member of a professional body, which would be AphA, and then you also have to pay for your professional registration, and you have to maintain your professional body membership to stay on the register. Through AphA, you get registered on the FedIP register, and that also is used by BCS, IRM, Chime. So it's not the only one. They use recognized standards across the UK health informatics, so we're all matching and meeting the same standards. AphA offers significant guidance and support. We have frameworks and resources on our website and a community of peers. So everyone at AphA is more than happy to support you along the way. Reasons why you should become registered: demonstrate your skills, commitment, validate your knowledge and skills, just get that confidence that you really do know what you're talking about. It's an independent indication of competency and credibility. It will help your career development, and it's very soon going to become a requirement, so you might as well get ahead of everybody else and get it done. There's 3 things you need to have. That is an application form and a minimum of 3 reflective practices. You can do more if you can't meet all the standards in those 3, but you do need a minimum of 3. And then you need to have evidence that matches to each of those standards in addition to your reflective practice. I'm going to just briefly show the levels, and I'll talk a little bit about some hints and tips. If you want to more in-depth on professional registration, Jane and I are doing a session on September 8th at 11 where we will go a lot more in detail about this. It will cover some of the stuff from the beginning, but I won't have to fly through these quite as quickly, so you can join us for that. And I believe Rachel will send out this slide deck so you can kind of look at it at your own pace as well. But there's 4 different levels, and you'll notice if you look at it that they kind of increasingly add on to each other. So you start with kind of some autonomy, but you need guidance and direction, all the way up to autonomy within broad parameters. So it's a lot of the same standards, but just more and more autonomy, more and more control over what you're doing, more and more authority, that kind of thing. When you do your reflective practice, we do use the STAR model. So you need to make sure that you describe your situation, tasks, actions, and results, and then you need to match each thing that you talk about to one of those professional standards. And one thing that is often recommended is to start using these standards to kind of map out your projects and all the pieces of work that you've worked on and laying out your whole approach. It's more about how you got there and less about what your final result was. So even if you struggled, even if maybe at the end of the day it wasn't a massive success, it's more about describing what you were trying to achieve, the steps you took, the decisions you made, the roadblocks you encountered, and how you overcame them. So it's kind of about what you learned, what you would have done differently, what the results were. So don't worry too much about what the final product was. It's more about your journey. So the advice that we have for the professional registration process is to set aside some time to work on it. This can be done in a lot of different ways. Some people will just take a weekend that they have available and do it. Some people will work on it an hour every evening over multiple months. There's a lot of different approaches, but with anything, if you can try and find even just small chunks of time to set aside to just think about it and look through the materials and make sure that you have the time. It's not something that you can do easily in a day, so you will need to just kind of lay that out. I'll talk about our application windows in a moment, but you can only apply 4 times a year. So in the lead up to those months, if you get started and get your things in, you can put your application in early, but it won't get looked at until our windows. But like I mentioned before, approach your reflective practice by thinking of chunky pieces of work you've done. So take big projects, things that might cover multiple of those standards, and just start laying out that story. What have you done? What were you thinking as you went through it? What decisions did you make? Because it is just about telling the story. You want to walk your assessor through your journey. If you've moved jobs, you can use past examples, but you need to make sure you have evidence to support it, and ideally, all of your pieces of work relate to health and care, since that is what this professional registration is about. So it's data and analytics within health and care. No hard limit, but it does need to be recent. So if you've done a project 10 years ago and you've not touched it since, probably not a good example to use. Make sure you evidence the standards, not just the reflective practice points. And keep in mind that it's not a reflection of your current job role or employer, it's a reflection of where you're at. So even if you're just in a data analyst role, doesn't mean that you can't be a senior practitioner. So don't feel like you have to keep yourself to kind of that box. Application windows. So our next application window is in July, and then there will be another one in October and January. We do introduction workshops 1 month before, so we've just passed one, as you can see, in June, but there will be another one in September for anybody that's interested. These are really great opportunities to just get the detail of what it's like, and they'll go through a lot of examples. The Q&A workshop is for people that are already in the process, so they've already started their application, but they have maybe specific questions about whether or not this is a good piece of evidence, or if this reflective practice has enough detail. So it's a good place to go and ask questions of the assessors if you're not quite sure of something. And just keep in mind that it is a very supportive process. So we're all here to help. We want you to be successful, and your assessor will work with you to make sure that you get everything you need for your application and it gets through. So don't worry about necessarily failing. We will do everything we can to help. So that is it for me. And I will just, yeah, that's it for me. Rachel, I'll hand back to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody, for contributing to that. I've been very lucky having all these presenters, so it's been wonderful. So thank you, Corielyn, Jane, Jeanette, Rachel, and Ruth. Did I miss anyone? I think not.
Nope, that was it.
No, I think that was a full set. So thank you very much for sharing your time and telling us about the AphA in general, about the process that people can go through, and about these specialist networks. I love population health management, public health background. I'm a massive fan of Muir Gray. Went to a sort of a workshop, a big workshop, and he was there a couple of months ago, and he had bright red trainers, and I thought, I like that. I like that, but he's obviously very, very important in that profession, so, and supporting that network as well. So there are a couple of questions. We've got time for a couple, and I could, in fact, probably share my screen, which is probably the easiest thing to do. So some of them are directly related to the presentation, and some are sort of a broader in nature, but I'm sure I've just seen a hand up. Jake, did you have a question? Or is your hand now down? I spotted something.
It's okay. It was an accidental one.
It's okay. It's absolutely fine. Blame the heat. Everybody is blaming the heat for absolutely everything. Great. So let me just share the Slido. So there's a couple of questions which you could probably work our way through. Let me find them. Oh, I know what's happened here. Just bear with me. This is gonna happen anytime. I'm creating. Here we go. Time pressure for myself by being inept, inefficient. So we do have a couple of questions. So if I could just, I'll go through them as they appear. So they're the most recent ones. Somebody said that people don't have access to the chat. That is correct. About half people in the room won't have access to the chat. So I did put the link here to the PHM network. You've got it here, but I'll also share the slides, and they will have all of the links that you could possibly need on the slides as well. And yes, I will be sharing the slides. Let me just work my way down here. Just get rid of that here. So I think there's a question here. I don't know if Rachel McIlroy is still in the room, but somebody has mentioned here about the recently launched, I think, Strategic Commissioning Development Programme. So that's a broader topic. So that I might just sort of like leave that one there. But I think the reference being, how will this affect the analytical profession?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a lot of time to go into that, but what I will say is that the Chief Data Analytical Officer Network, we are going to be running a series of webinars with them to describe exactly what that programme is. And so we'll be looking at it from an analytical lens. So it'll probably get answered in that, but certainly happy to pick up that question in more detail offline.
So those, yeah, thanks, Rachel. So those webinars, if they are open to others, I'd be very happy to sort of share the details with people in this network as well. Again, this one actually starts off not really on topic, but the impact, what has been or will be the impact of the ongoing structuring or restructuring rather of ICB. So I think there's a feeling clearly that we don't know the whole picture, but this has to have had an impact on the analytical profession, what with the changes to ICBs and CSUs and so on. And there's been a lot of activity on LinkedIn and sort of concern, I suppose, about losing analysts, not just weakening the profession. So hopefully with the Strategic Commission Development Programme and others, we can start to rebuild that, maybe sort of get that balance right again, because it's always been an area where there's simply not been enough people. The skills aren't there in the amounts that they need to be. And as a broad question, which I won't address, I'll just see if we've got any. One more question. As a manager of analysts, don't have much hands-on experience anymore. So how would you evidence the competencies when most of my work is steering and supporting others? So I'm not even going to let you answer that, Corielyn, because we had that conversation the other day. So I'm in the same kind of boat. I don't do proper work anymore. I don't do proper analysis. I do some. I don't do very much anymore. I have done it in the past. And this is done by other people. There is a route through this for you as well, and anybody else in that position. And I think get in contact with Corielyn later, and she'll sort of
guide
if
you. Anyone wants to have a chat about it, I'm more than happy to. I'm similar. I have my examples were probably not typical examples because of the type of work that I do in data governance. So I'm more than happy to help you get kind of creative and think about what you've done and how it can apply. So yeah, any conversations, more than happy. Just send me an email and we can chat about it.
That's really kind. Thanks very much, Corielyn.
Yeah.
So I'll just it's hit 12, but I'll just finish off by just having a quick look at what's coming up next, because I'm sure you're all dying to know. Well, next is actually a planned early summer break, so there's going to be one in a couple of weeks. But after that, we've got decision quality and the use of AI in clinical decision making. Now, this is going to be good. I had a meeting with Deb the other day, and she referenced, or she'd seen one of our previous huddles about the proportion of people who are discharged from hospital without a diagnosis, which is about a quarter. She said that level in the US is 0. Nobody has no diagnosis, because I guess it's all linked to funding and payments. Then we've got some work around admission thresholds, which is going to be really useful, I think, for left shift and patient flow and so on. That's with Stephen White and Andrew Hood's strategy unit. We then got the Midlands Prevention Pathway Toolkit. So I'm very much looking forward to that into September. And October, we've got Better Homes, Better Health Insights from linking housing and health data. And that's Tom Prendergast, the Health Foundation. And of course, Rachel was talking earlier about the importance of that broader place, the impact of the environment on your health and so on. It's extremely important, and housing is right up there with having such a big influence on what your health status is likely to be. I've mentioned the Strategic Commissioning Intelligence Centre, and because always just so much stuff. There's just so much stuff. I'm so excited by all of this, but I will stop sharing now, and I have only gone 2 minutes over. I think that's
not bad.
I think that's actually okay. So thank you so much again to our speakers. Really appreciate you coming to tell us, give us some updates and tell us what's happening and how our analysts can be supported. So that's so helpful. So thank you, Corielyn, Jane, Jeanette, Rachel and Ruth. It's been really appreciate your time. And thank you everybody for coming. That's been it's always lovely to see you. I hope you're kind of keeping comfortable and not too hot. Of course, next time around it'll be pouring down, and we'll be talking about the rain and the fact that we don't have to water the flowers anymore. Thank you everybody, and I'll see you in a few weeks. Okay, bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.